Hey there, this is Jeff. I've did some videos before in the past. I thought I'd do a new one. I haven't done one in quite some time. The last one I did was Ricciaflutens and how to create tiles that you could use for some really cool effects. But really what I want to do is just give you guys kind of my perspective on tanks. It's not going to be overly scientific. If you want that, this is not the video. This is more of a trial and error and years of things that I've been experienced with, and I want to share that with you just on this one tank here. The kind of the focus here will be around carpeting plants like the Dwarf Baby Tears. Hemianthus Callitrichoides is, I think, the scientific name. Don't I might have butchered that, but I can't keep saying that word. To be honest with you, I'm just going to say Dwarf Baby Tears because it's just easier for me. And I want to kind of go over the conditions that will help you be successful in this through the trial and error I've gone through, because there's so much information out there. Oh, go ahead, they love highlight, or run tons of CO2 in the tank and make it look like a soda can in there. Forget it, that's not going to work. You're also going to see some cool effects. My two sons here are helping me out today, so Logan and Nathan, really appreciate your help here. But let's get on with the tank. So really, this is a basic setup. I wanted something simple where it could kind of showcase the fish, really get that schooling effect, give them some space. With carpeted plants, the one thing you got to really be focused on is how much light and shade they're getting. Also important is filtration and flow. I think flow is one of those underrated things. You hear a lot about light, you hear a lot about CO2 and nutrients. But I'm telling you, if you do not have the right amount of flow in the tank with a good solid filtration system, you're gonna struggle, and it's gonna have some tough effects on the plants. So in this tank here, I also have some other plants, as you see, Balexa, and then I also have Rotilla atra. So in focusing on first the carpeting plant here. What you want to do with this is, I like to grow these submersed. I don't spend a lot of time with immersed tanks because it's another 4 to 5 weeks of growing them immersed. And I can tell you one of the key issues that I have is the dieback. These plants are notorious for dieback, and some people say I've never had the problem. That's fine. For me, I have had the problem. So in order to help avoid that, lots of water changes in the beginning. I was changing the water about every other day for about 2 weeks, and then after that it was about every second day. So I'd go 2 days and then I'd have to change the water again. And now I'm basically on a schedule of about twice a week. So every 3 to 4 days I do change the water 50%. That is really to keep these plants growing. Keep the nutrients in the tank balanced, and I use a mixture of RO water and house water. My house water has a high pH. If you have high pH, you probably want to bring that down with some RO water. If you do not have high pH, RO water is not really an issue. You don't have to worry about it. But for me, I have a really high pH water, so I have to kind of cut that down. But really the focus here with this is making sure it gets the right amount of light. I use aquarium 1500s. They are fantastic lights. I've never had a problem with it. I also use a controller up here. You do not need this, but it helps me because it's also a timer, and I run a second tank with the lights over here, which are run at a slightly different dim requirement. But the other thing I use here too is a GLA regulator. Fantastic regulator, never had a problem with it, had it for 4 years. And I run it on a 15-pound CO2, and I can run a 55-gallon tank here, and I can run this one, which is a 50-gallon. And I also have a smaller tank over here that I can run all 3 of these tanks, no problem. So getting back to this tank here, which is the focus, is making sure now that you have CO2, you have the right amount of light. I like to use these kind of pendant type lights because I can adjust them up and down a little bit to make that different effect. And determining how this is growing also tells me if I should raise this up a little bit or lower it. If they start to raise up too quickly, I do tend to drop the lights down so that it gets a little bit greater intensity here. The more intense this is, the denser it gets, the more compact it is, and that's what you want to have. So you do want to trim these as well. I'd probably trim maybe once a week, once every other week, something like that, and that'll get you that really nice carpeting effect. But here's the little thing with carpeting plants: they will not always stay like this. Okay. Guarantee you, this tank has been up for about 5, maybe 6 months now. Probably within another 3 to 4 months, this will start to raise up. It's an expected thing. You can replant, you can try some different things. I like to always experiment and try different things with my tanks. And let me give you a little idea here of what I use in my tanks too. Pretty simple. I use EI method. Tom Barr, thank you very much. You know, he kind of turned me on to this, and he has some amazing forums and plants that I've seen. So the way I do it is I put in the macros here twice a week according to the doses on EI, and you can get them through GLA. I think GLA has a link to that as well. And then I also use the micro here, which is the Plant X, on alternate days with this. That's all I use for fertilization, nothing else. The other thing you want to have is a good pH monitor, so that you can make sure that your pH is right around where you need it to be. For me, for my pH, I use about 7.0. Some drop it down to about 6.8 or so. If you start to drop it down too low, though, the fish do not like that. At least mine do. So I tend to want to go with the highest pH I can get away with, so that I have healthy fish that are swimming and not lethargic and looking like they're gasping for air. You want some kind of CO2 indicator. Again, these are kind of GLA products. And then I also have something to measure temperature for water changes. I like to make sure that the water is exactly the same temperature. I do have a heated fish room here. I'll show you the scan in a minute. So this is these are my tanks here. I have this 55 here. I run some rainbows. I do run salt water. I have this one here, which is just a really dense planted tank. I really enjoy this tank just because the rainbows seem to love it. They love the hiding places. And then I also have a 46 bow front here as well. All these tanks I've had from friends, people I know. Most of the time, I just like to take their tanks and turn them into something that I like to do with various color and planted environments. So this is kind of my fish room at a glance, guys. I'll probably post some more here in the future. If you guys have any comments or like it, let me know. Thanks a lot.